let's take a look. You know, Hillary Clinton has been doing this kabuki of outrage about her friend, Harvey Weinstein. I mean, here's a woman who's friends with Harvey Weinstein. Her best friend is married to a serial abuser. She's married to a serial abuser, and she's going to be outraged. So no American reporter that I saw questioned her, made any comparison to Bill Clinton. Unfortunately, she then went to England, and the BBC, one of the most leftist organizations there is, actually had the guts to ask her the question. Here's her response.
This kind of behavior cannot be tolerated anywhere, whether it's in entertainment, politics. Well, you know, after all, we have someone admitting to being a sexual assaulter in the Oval Office. There has to be a recognition that we must stand against this kind of, action that is so sexist and misogynistic.
And this depends upon women coming forward and having the courage to come forward.
Right.
And yet, in your book, the three women brought onto stage by Trump attacking your husband, and you kind of dismissed them. Was that the right thing to do? Are you sure about that?
Well, yes, because that had all been litigated. I mean, that was the subject of a huge, investigation, as you might recall, in the late 90s. And there were conclusions drawn, and that was clearly in the past.
All right, we're going to get back clearly that. No. Those women don't count. Those women don't matter. We're going to get back to what Hillary, personally did to those women in just a second. But first, let me bring up Trump for just a second, because a lot of people on the left are saying, oh, you on the right are saying, oh, Harvey Weinstein shows the corruption of the Democrat Party. He does. But you've got this guy in the White House who has done all these bad things. And a lot of people on the right here, again, reactionary. A lot of people on the right are saying, well, they have that Access Hollywood tape, but he didn't do anything on there. He just said stuff. Look, he's been charged by a lot of women, too. And obviously nothing's been proved. He is also an alleged guy. But look into your heart for a minute. I mean, come on. You look at Donald Trump. I am sure that Donald Trump has done some truly offensive and disgusting things. I don't think he's a rapist. I don't believe he's a rapist. He doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. But I'm sure he's been very handsy with a lot of women, and I'm sure he is not clean in this. I don't think he should be, impeached for anything he did before he came into the White House. But I'm not going to make excuses for him either. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to react. These guys are out of line. They are abusive. They are treating women abominably, and they treat people. This is the other thing about Harvey Weinstein. He treated people abominably. But let's talk about the women who came out against Hillary Clinton, because this is what I'm talking about. Linda Bloodworth Thompson, right? She is the TV writer. She did Designing Women, very successful TV writer, big friend of Bill and Hillary. Okay, she writes in the Hollywood Reporter. As more and more women have come forward, A-listers who are normally intrepid social injustice sniffers have scrambled to condemn Weinstein and announce they had no idea all this was going on. Some said this despite knowing him for decades, starring in his films and being friends with accusers who starred in his films. Okay, whatever. I myself, she says, was a member of a Let's Bring Harvey Weinstein Down lunch club, and I don't even work in features. However, I will be the first to admit that clearly delineated moral choices can still be painfully complex where friendship is involved. One of the best friends I will ever have, and a man I love dearly, former President Bill Clinton, has certainly taxed my feminist conscience, but always without diminishing my affection. I even helped write his apology to the nation for his own sexual misconduct, was sitting next to him when he delivered it, and believed to this day it was based on something that was none of our business, namely his affair with Monica Lewinsky, because obviously they were both willing, even though the power differential was absurd. She says, yes, some may call it hypocritical, but I confess to having had no problem warning at least 3 top-level Democratic operatives against allowing Harvey Weinstein to host political fundraisers, a warning that evidently fell on deaf ears. So Hillary knew. If Linda Thomason was talking about this to Democrats, and she's best friends with Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton knew about Harvey Weinstein too. So all that stuff is just absolute nonsense. And while we're talking, this is the other thing. These women come forward and it's all consensual. It's all consensual. She chased me. She chased me. Here are the 3 women that the BBC guy was talking about: Paula Jones, Kathleen Willey, and Juanita Broaddrick. Juanita Broaddrick says she was raped. Kathleen Willey, well, I'll come back. Let me come back to Kathleen Willey, because that's a story in and of itself. But here are the 3 of them detailing the things that were done to them in an interview with Breitbart. This is cut number, you got it? Yeah, play it. 9.
he's done.
This is what I would like to say. Rape, physical assault, sexual assault, sexual harassment. I want to say this to the mainstream media, Andrea Mitchell, Jake Tapper, all of these people. These are not infidelities.
No.
A rape is not an infidelity. These are crimes. Any other people would be in jail.
Yes, they
Yes.
would be.
They would be in jail for a very long time. This is no longer about infidelities, indiscretions, girlfriends, sex, interns, none of those. This is about a serial rapist, a predator, and his wife who has enabled his behavior
Yes.
all of these
Amen.
years. She's taken personal betrayals and turned them into political opportunities, and it's just
Yes.
that
Yeah,
simple.
we three are
He
victims.
exposed himself to me. That's a crime. They're not supposed to expose yourself to people.
These are not infidelities.
All right. So that's Kathleen Willey, and I'll talk some more about her and what happened to her in just a second. So Kathleen Willey was, when Clinton was in the Oval Office, she visited him in the Oval Office. She was in trouble. Her husband was in financial trouble. She didn't know it, but even as this was happening, I believe, as I recall the story, he was found dead of a gunshot wound that has been deemed suicide. She has sometimes expressed suspicion that the Clintons had him killed. She went to Bill Clinton for help. He chased her around the room, molested her, all this stuff. Later, when she came out, and she was an ardent Democrat and an ardent friend of Bill, later when she came out and exposed him, she said that her cat disappeared. She went out, and a man was on the street and said to her, basically, "How's your cat?" A stranger. And she said, "What do you mean?" And he started asking her about her children by name, and then said, "You're just not getting the message, okay?" That's what happens to people. This is real stuff. This is real stuff, and it happens. Listen, well, you know what? I'll just show you. Remember Alan Combs, the late Alan Combs, who was, was Hannity and Combs when Hannity started out on Fox TV. Combs was the liberal guy. Listen to the way Combs treated Wiley when she told this story.
You mentioned the being subpoenaed after all this.
Yes.
Now, let me put up on the screen what Robert Ray said in having investigated the situation, the independent counsel. He said, Willie's testimony to the grand jury about the alleged incident differed materially from your deposition testimony given in Jones versus Clinton. You said at your deposition that Clinton did not final you. The final report of the independent counsel in Madison Guarantee Savings and Loan regarding Monica Lewinsky and others, that there was a difference in the things you said in those two different appearances. Why would Robert Ray say that?
Robert Ray had an agenda. Robert
did?
Ray wrote, yes. He wanted to run for Senate from New Jersey when this was over. He thought that, he needed political
He wasn't a
friends.
liberal. He wasn't a Democrat
I know
appointed
he
by
wasn't.
Democrats.
He also got arrested for stalking a woman, too, not many years ago, too.
Does that have anything to do with this?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know anything about his arrest for stalking
Well,
a
I
woman.
do.
So I'm just saying, you go on TV and you're making charges against powerful people. Powerful people are going to cross-examine you. And listen, women lie. The reason they lie, they're people. People lie. So sometimes the accusations, that's why we have to have the presumption of innocence. I'm not saying that everybody who comes out and says something should be believed. I'm simply saying that when you start to blame these women because you get so angry at the feminists for mouthing off, when you start to blame the women for not coming forward earlier, you're losing the plot. You're losing the moral plot. When you start to defend Donald Trump because you like what he's doing politically, I like what he's doing politically. I'm really happy. He's so much better than I feared he was going to be. I'm really happy with what he's doing politically. I am not going to defend him. I am not going to become one of the Clintonites who defended Bill Clinton for what he was doing because they wanted to protect abortion rights and so on. I'm not going to become a guy who defends Donald Trump for stuff he did to women. That's not happening. That shouldn't. You got to remember. You got to remember who you are. You got to remember who we are. Right.